Good evening, everybody. Jeremy Jackson here with another episode of Corruption in Westmoreland County. Tonight, what we're going to talk about, which we've touched on a little bit before, is the family court here in Westmoreland County and in general, but I'm speaking on my case, and the domestic relations section, which is a child support office, and their Title IV the attorney they have. So let's just break into it real quick here. What I got in front of me, you guys can't see here, but it's an evidence binder, and it is probably about 4 inches thick so far as of now for my federal lawsuit and state lawsuits that I have against them. So what I want to first jump into here is, because I have it open to the page, is when I had a motions hearing that I filed for June 10th of this year, 2025, in front of the Judge Smizzy, which is a family court judge. I had wanted them to dismiss and terminate the support order because there was no Title IV-D application, which before, as I said in my videos multiple times, if your case is labeled Title IV-D, the Title IV-D application is the foundation of that case. And when I say that a 4D application, that means that is something that the parent that is requesting child support signs and has an agreement, a contract with the local domestic relations office of the county. And the county is supposed to then take it to the Department of Human Services, and they are supposed to have it on file by law. It is all everything's supposed to be in the PACES record, which is the online official court document record for child support here in Pennsylvania. So what I'm going to get into is I challenged them on jurisdiction because I was never given or seen a Title IV-D application. There is a difference between a child support complaint and a Title IV-D application. A generic generic child support complaint does not have all the required information for the Title IV-D contract case to be started. The Title IV-D application, on the other hand, is regulated by the federal government of what all information has to be on the application, what all information has to be on there for the person that is requesting support to understand. In my case, as soon as I started asking them for the Title IV-D application, I got crickets. So I'm going to read you guys from this June 10th motions hearing, straight from the transcripts that I paid for and got from the county court, what it says. Now, when I go up against the domestic relations office, they have their attorney, which is a Title IV-D attorney. That's all she does, or he or she does, is specialize in Title IV-D issues. So I'm dealing with somebody that is supposed to be a legal professional on Title IV-D, and we're going to break it down right now. So I'm arguing the facts that there is no Title IV-D application. Nobody's ever sent me one. The Pennsylvania Department of Human Services sent me 2 letters from my right to know request stating there is nothing on file they can send me that is a Title IV-D application. First red flag right there. So here we go. Here's the excerpt from domestic relations attorney Emily Geiger. I'm gonna shorten it up for you guys, but the important parts here are, so that's not applicable. The contract that I believe Mr. Jackson may be referring to would be our cooperative agreement. Now, right away, she's saying contract. She's twisting the words because I never said contract. I said Title IV-D application, and I made it clear between the person requesting child support, and between the domestic relations office. I want the valid legal Title IV-D application. So here's what she says, which is between the state and the required under Title IV-D of the Social Security Act. That is not something that we would have anybody, any defendants or plaintiffs or parties to any cases sign. That's just our operating agreement. So what she did is I asked for proof of a valid Title IV-D application from the person wanting child support to the domestic relations office. It's pretty simple. So what she did, she spun it all around, and she turned it into that I was requesting a contract between the domestic relations office and the government, which I never said that. I never asked that. In the second part here that I got highlighted, which is great, but there is, as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I know, no 4D contract for us to provide Mr. Jackson. All of these cases are being enforced because there are court orders requiring the defendants to pay a certain amount of child support. If they're not being paid, then we enforce those cases. So right there, she does not know of any Title 4D contract that she can provide me. Again, I think she's doing it on purpose, switching words. I asked for an application, she's saying contract, whatever. They're beating around the bush. Now, if you're telling me you're a Title 4D attorney, you should know this inside and out. And you seem to tell me that there is no 4D application, there is no contract or application we can give Mr. Jackson. I mean, so what the problem is, this is just one case, one instance where this 4D attorney has stated there is no 4D application they can give me. Also, I brought up during this motions hearing that I had a conference, a child support conference with the lead supervisor of the Westmoreland County Domestic Relations, Jacqueline Henry. And during that, I think we spoke about this before, I sat there and took notes. And this is the very first time I asked her, is my case a 4D case, or what is it? Because I've seen documents, letters on documents that says Title 4D in Roman numerals, and I just want to know, is that what the case is here? And she told me in a long about way is my ex is not receiving any state money, any federal money, anything like that. So I wrote it all down, and then I sent an email a few weeks later trying to get it in writing from her, and her whole story changed. So my email said, hello, so-and-so, you did state in our last conference that my case was not 4D, is that correct? And she said, no, I did not say that it is Title 4D. Your case is 4D. I said, well, I'm really confused now because in our conference hearing, or conference, whatever you want to call it, that we had, you told me my ex is not receiving any state or federal money. No money is being paid to them. So please explain to me why. And she didn't. So, but they did try to say it is just a process that they use. It's the 4D process, and she proceeded to pull up her computer, turned it towards me, and pulled up a chart for my case, and I think it said something like state, federal, I don't know, something about adoption or foster families and all that. These are different boxes where when people pay, X amount gets taken out for those things. And that would be the Title 4D. That's why they have that. That's why they're authorized to do what they do, which is come after you and threaten you with jail, take your licenses away from you, all that stuff. That gives them the authorization to do that. But if you don't have everything, the foundation of that down right, you don't have the authorization to do that. And now that I brought it up to all of them, and they still continue to do this anyway, well, you know what? We're gonna hash this out in federal court in front of a federal judge. I don't think that he's gonna take too kindly to a government agency doing this to a father and a combat veteran. And again, I'm not trying to say I'm anything special or different. I'm not. But it's a simple fact is I did serve my country. I bled for my country. And my oath never ends. And it's always against foreign or domestic. And I don't lie. I don't have a need to lie for anything. But I have documented everything very well in my case here. Every single thing. So let's see here. So yes, regarding that meeting that I had with the domestic relations supervisor and the 4D, it's not 4D, it is 4D thing there. I brought that up in this hearing that I filed for, or this motions hearing, and the domestic relations 4D attorney Emily Geiger says, which are not recorded, Your Honor, those are not on the record. So they were clear. They were worried, like they were trying to let the judge know that those were my transcripts that I made. So I had the judge asking me, "Did you record there? Did you record?" And I said no. I told him I did not record. I sat there with a notebook, took notes, detailed verbatim notes, because these things were important that I was asking this lady, and I wanted to have it for my knowledge and for my cases coming up. So, so then the judge says, "So you did not record? You didn't record anything in that hearing?" First off, it's not a hearing. It was a conference, and not in front of a judge or anything. It was in front of a domestic relations employee. And no, I did not record nothing, Your Honor, which I did not. So they're very worried about things like that, recording, because that's when you can really catch these people in lies. And then when you have it recorded and you go to bring it to court, there ain't nowhere from the hide. But if it's my word versus their word, or your word versus the court's word, who do you think wins? There's a reason why they don't let you record in courthouses. Well, some of them do, I guess, across the states, but here in Pennsylvania, they'll hit you with a wiretapping charge. So you guys are watching this and think I recorded. No, I did not record. Like I told you before, I do not do that. I don't break the rules. I don't break the law. And they've accused me of intentionally not paying. But the fact is, I've spent so much money on these lawsuits, fell behind in support because of all this. And when somebody finds illegal violations that violate their own laws and your rights, what is somebody supposed to do? Should you continue paying a corrupt system where you're not getting any kind of remedy back? I know my children are well off. I know they're not suffering. I know they're not, in a cardboard box living on the street with their mom. That's not the case at all, because I would never allow that to happen. I don't need a court to tell me what I should do with my kids. Anyhow, I don't want to deviate from our topic today. So during this hearing, I want to read a few more things off it. I highlighted, I said, and to have and to be able to enforce child support on me, which they are doing, they labeled my case Title 4D. They have to, by law, have an application signed by the other parent in order to enforce this. Or if they have TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. That's if you're poor and you need to have welfare. Welfare will automatically sign you up for Title 4D child support without the person actually requesting it. So that's what that is. But that's not the case here. Nobody has TANF. Nobody is a needy family here, especially the recipient of this support case here. And that's how they can start a process, is either if the welfare starts it or the person themselves starts it. And then I also brought up to the court, I said, if you label my case Title 4D and you want to come after me with sanctions and jail time and threats and all that stuff, like they've been doing for contempt, you have to have a valid Title 4D application. And then the judge says, aren't all child support cases 4D though? You're a family court judge, and you're asking me or the other attorney they're not. They're not. The simple fact is the way I told you guys before. There's a Title 4D child support, or there is an original complaint from one person against another, like a lawsuit. You go up to the court, you say, I want child support. You don't sign up for the 4D whatever, so the county gets their incentives from the government and all that. There's a difference. There's two things, but anyhow, it's just like they're baiting me into things. They're working together. You can see the judge and the attorney colluding together to see what I know and what I don't know, and what they can get away with, what I'll call out, what I won't call out. But I've been calling out pretty much everything, and it's got to the point where now I went to hand in some very important documents, exhibits, for my case that would probably easily have this case terminated, shut down, and he would not accept them into the record. So that's another problem I'm having here, which I'm dealing with as we speak. There's appeals that are going to go to Superior Court, and also Judicial Conduct Board of Complaints are sent out. So let me go through here and see what else we can talk about. Okay. And then the judge says, hold on, an application for what? And I said, a Title 4D application. And the judge says, between who? Who's the application? Who's the contractor? Again, you're a family court judge and you're asking me these questions. Either you're that incompetent you shouldn't be a judge at family court, or you're baiting me to see what I know. So I said it's between domestic relations and the custodial parent, which it is. That's what I'm looking for. So they're beating around the bush. They don't have one. So this is their way of getting out of it. So, but I'm not letting that happen. Most people at that point would just say, "Oh well, I don't have no remedy here. I'm not going to win nothing. I'm never going to get anything granted, a motions hearing granted in my case, nothing. So I'm just going to give up and the hell with it." Well, not me, because I caught on to something here and I know I'm not wrong. So let's see here, what else we got. And then he asked, or no, I told him it's between domestic relations and a custodial parent or whoever it is that filed for support. That's who the 4D application should be from and to. And then he says, I'm sorry, Miss Geiger, the 4D attorney, that would be the complaint. An application for our services would be the complaint filed by the plaintiff. The judge says, right. I speak up and say, no, Your Honor, they don't have the Title 4D application contract. And I don't mean to be rude here, but that's the fact. There's no other way around it. A complaint is not a Title 4D application. So when we do another video here coming up, I'm going to show you guys what an actual Title 4D application looks like versus a generic complaint from Westmoreland County where I live and have this case going through. There must be so much information, specific information from the person requesting support filled out on these papers. So what we will get to now while I have it here is a couple hearings later that I filed for. After bringing up there's no 4D application, blah, 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 nobody's ever sent me one. So another time I filed a motions hearing for terminating the child support for lack of jurisdiction because they don't have a Title 4D application. Now the Title 4D attorney, Emily Geiger, comes up and gives me, after I stopped at domestic relations, I asked them directly after a motions hearing, I said, do you guys have a copy of the Title 4D application on file that I can have? Well, let me go see what we got. So the deputy director, Gretchen Smith, comes back and says, hands me 4 papers, and on the top of it, it says complaint, and it's 4 pages. It's very vague. It's generic, and it doesn't include all of the required information that a Title 4D application does, a valid Title 4D application is supposed to have. So they gave me those 4 papers. A week later, I filed a right to know request. I demanded all of my paperwork from domestic relations, everything that I've ever had from them. I had to go up, pick it up, and it was already messed up because when I went there to pick it up, there was no certification notice cover page. I didn't have to sign nothing. They didn't sign nothing to say these were the official records. They just said, here's 2 piles of papers, one from your current case and one from your closed case that you've had. And that was it. So in that packet, I looked for the application, the complaint, and I found it. So it was 4 pages, just like the one that they handed me. So we move on to another motions hearing that I filed, again, to terminate support on all these violations that I found, and I'll tell you all this in a second. So they finally bring up some kind of 4 extra papers that are all redacted, like crossed out with black magic marker. And I'm like, well, what is this? Well, this is the whole Title 4D application. So if we're going from the first thing, I'm asking for a Title 4D application, and I have the domestic relations attorney here in court saying, I don't know what you're talking about, basically. We don't have nothing we can give them. We don't have no 4D application. I don't know. I'm going to spin everything around and make it like you're nuts and you're talking about something completely different. Well, they tried to pull that shit with me, and it didn't work. So what they did is they violated more laws and rules. and rights. When I demanded all of my papers from domestic relations, I demanded all of them. All of them. And I don't care if it's redacted or not. You should have had those papers in that big packet, and they did not. You know why? Because I think they just made those papers up, threw them in there to shut me up. Here, Judge, look, we have the whole thing here. That's what they do. And I knew they were going to do it, and you know what? It's a trap. You got to set traps in order to win against these people, and they walked right into it like I figured they would. So that's the kind of games that they play, and that's why you have to be playing chess, not checkers. And I think they're still on a checkers board over here while I'm actually making moves on the chessboard. So yeah, it's pretty insane the amount of corruption and the shit these people do just for their incentives. Because if I don't pay, people that pay support, if they don't pay, they don't get their incentives for the month or year, however they contract with the government for 4D. So yeah, there's a lot of issues. And in my child support case, I've gone over this before. I'm going to go over some of the violations. I'm not going to go through them all because there's so many of them, and I don't want to give all my information up before I have hearings and stuff like that at court. Number one, on the court record, there is no proof of service. On the Pacey's record, there is no proof of service. On the Pacey's record, there was also an entry that says complaint has been withdrawn and dismissed and has never been reopened on that docket. So that means they closed my child support case and dismissed it. By law, that's the binding information I have to go off of is the title for the Pacey's record. I'm sorry, the child support Pacey's record. What it says in those records are binding by law of what has actually happened. So it's being closed, and they're still enforcing child support on me and violating my rights, breaking laws. It's insane. So those are two things. Number three, when you are assigned, when you have child support started, a judge is assigned to your case. And that's it. That is the only judge that can sign orders off on your case unless the judge recuses themselves or has a injury and is gone and somebody else is filled in, but it has to legally be done. A judge has to legally be assigned to your case in order to sign off on orders. And I found in my case there has been 3 other judges signed orders in my child support case that are not legally on my case. That is a huge violation. That is a huge problem. That's just another one. That's only 3. Well, actually 4. No Title 4D application. Then they've made something up and withheld documents from me, which is illegal. When I demanded all my records from Pacey's and child support, I demanded every piece of paper, everything that is on the record, and they withheld papers because they either made it up or they had them hidden somewhere. Whatever the case may be, you were supposed to give them to me when I demanded them all, and you didn't. Then we got judges signing orders that are not on the case. We got the Pacey's record showing that the complaint has been withdrawn and dismissed, and we have no proof of service. Now, whether the Domestic Relations Office actually has a proof of service by a copy of certified mail or whatever it may be, that doesn't matter if it's not put on the court document, the docket, the court record, or Pacey's, then it didn't happen. And that's law. That's not me making up my own rules. That is the law. The state and federal laws say that. And we can break it all down. Anybody ever has questions for me or wants to know anything, put them in the comments. I will always check them out, and I will reply to you with direct answers and legal answers. I don't give legal advice, but I will give you answers of whatever you ask me for. So, I mean, this is systemic fraud that's going on, guys. This is not just my case. And like I said, there are a lot of other people in Westmoreland County where I pay support here and go through all this stuff at the child support office that are starting to do the same thing as me. So they're not going to just have me as a problem. They're going to probably have hundreds of people that are going to be like me, and they're going to cause a problem. And they're legally right. because domestic relations is not doing what they're supposed to do by law. They're not following the law. They're not following the rules. So, and another time I had a modification conference that I filed for. This was back in like January of 2025. My ex was there with her attorney. And I said, hey, you guys came, you took my kids off me, you took my parental rights away from me with a false story that I have been cleared from, and you still trying to force me to pay. I'm not doing it. You guys are wrong. Her attorney sat there and said, I abandoned my children. That's another problem. You can't say stuff like that. They do, but they think it's okay to do. But you can't do that. A judge has never deemed it legal that I abandoned my children. I've never been labeled that legally by a court or by a judge that I've abandoned my children. So that's perjury. You're lying, and you're also, that's the little darling of the court there, her old former lawyer, which is in my lawsuit, Kyle Baxter. She's another one we're going to get into. So, I mean, when we get to this child support office and domestic relations violations, I mean, it's insane the stuff they do here. And I just came across another piece of evidence here. I had I think it was a contempt conference, I believe. Or no, I'm sorry. I actually filed to terminate child support, and this was on August 20th of 2025. I went into the conference by myself. I had my fiance with me, and I asked the person at the desk, I said, can I have a witness come with me, or can I record this conference? No, you can't do either. It's our rules, whatever. Okay, so I brought a conference log sheet, and I wrote down the time, the person that gave me an answer, and what their position was, and what happened. So I wrote down here, Gretchen Smith at 9:57. She is a domestic relations deputy director. Said no recording, no witness for my side. Said since I'm not an attorney, I cannot bring someone in on my behalf. So they did have a sheriff sit in. They come up with the idea. Well, we can have Sheriff so and so come sit in with you if you'd like that. Well, sure. I mean, why not? Why not have law enforcement sit in with me? So I did. The sheriff came in. I wrote her name down, and I wrote it that she sat in on the case. And everything you do, you write things down. But it's really funny. It's always the fact that you're never allowed to record. You're never allowed to bring a witness. You're never allowed to have anybody or anything that can support you or back you up of what actually happened in these meetings. And that's the way they want it. Because if they didn't have that, they wouldn't be in business. I can tell you that. And that's what domestic relations and family court is. Everybody, it's a business. That's all it is. It's a business. This kind of thing here is reserved. Should be reserved for people that are really nasty, horrible people that are parents and have their kids taken away. Sure, that's a case where you need courts to intervene, domestic relations intervene. Not the situation that I have. But that's what we're dealing here with, everybody. So we got it. Wow, we got a lot of stuff going on. We have a judge that violated rights that, agreed to take my kids off of me because of a statement made by my kid's mother, conveniently a week or two after I filed to get my kids more than 50-50. They never afforded me an evidentiary hearing to disprove her or to prove myself innocent. I mean, it just goes on and on. Then she went up to the state police, filed state police charges on me. CYS started investigating me, the Children and Youth Services, you know that. She investigated me, and they cleared me actually pretty quick because that lady was smart. She seen what was going on here, and she said, Jeremy, I've seen this multiple times. I see exactly what's going on here. I'm going to clear you. I don't believe this story. I was like, wow, somebody actually took my side. She tried, the CYS lady also did try to contact the Pennsylvania State Trooper Antonio Maffa at the Greensburg barracks to let him know of what she has cleared me and what was going on. left messages, called him. He never called her back. The DA never called her back. This is Ziccarelli, you know, Nicole Ziccarelli, Westmoreland County. We'll get into that for another day. But all these people involved in having my kids taken from me and then forcing me to pay for kids that I no longer have the right to see or be their father to. What is okay about this in anybody's book? I would love to hear your thoughts. If you think this is okay, put a comment below. I want to hear it. Um, I want to hear constructive criticism, but I'll tell you right now, there ain't nothing constructive about none of this. Um, what I'm doing, filing these lawsuits and going after these people, that's the only constructive thing out of this whole mess that I've been in here with this county court. So yeah, again, we got the judge that just took my kids away from me. State police put charges on me without even investigating. That's another thing we can talk about. Uh, Pennsylvania State Police, Greensburg Barracks, Trooper Maffa, sent me charges in the mail, 2 charges. Never came to my house to investigate. Now, if you're being accused of corruption of minors and endangering the welfare of children, you mean to tell me no police officer is going to come to your house and say, I'm here to investigate, or we're here to investigate you doing horrible shit to kids, or whatever it may be? Nope, nobody came. But he did try to call me, he says in his affidavit, which is a lie. And that's another problem. He lied in his affidavit. Because when I went up to get my biometrics done, my fingerprints and my picture taken, before I even had a hearing, mind you, he asked me, or I'm sorry, I asked him, I said, sir, what number did you try calling exactly? Because I seen on your affidavit you tried to make contact with me, but yielded no results. What number do you have? You know what? I don't even know. I don't think I have your number. I said, oh, okay. Well, let me give it to you. And I gave it to him. So he told me he didn't have my number, but yet he tried to contact me via phone and yielded no results on his affidavit. You know, I didn't want to have to sue him or the state police, because I'm not somebody that goes against. I'm not a police hater, a judge hater. If anybody knows me would know why, and that's not the case at all. But um, he was complicit in this, and he lied on top of it all. And then the attorneys that I hired initially, when this all kicked off to help me, they were from Shaw Law Group. It was 2 attorneys, Jacqueline Shaw and Alyssa Bartling. Now, Alyssa Bartling was the family court lawyer that I hired. She did the family court stuff. Jacqueline Shaw was the criminal attorney for the same firm, but 2 different things. Jacqueline Shaw did the criminal, Alyssa Bartling did the family stuff. They're listed in my federal lawsuit as well. And again, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be doing this, but I'm not going to let people take my kids away, trample my rights, and treat me like I'm some kind of third-grade citizen from some shithole country. It just ain't going to happen. So I did file a contempt charge against my ex for not giving me my children on my designated time. I was actually on my way to pick up my sons whenever she text messaged me. My ex text messaged me and said that the boys are now in her custody and she is not going to give the kids to me. Here's the PDF of the emergency custody order. That's how I got served. One party cannot serve the other, especially via text. But that's how I got served. I was actually on my way to pick up my kids. She sent that text. I took a constable with me because I'm still going, and she denied them for me. So I filed a contempt charge against her for withholding my children on my time because I was not properly served. So during the next hearing that was coming up, a custody conciliation hearing I didn't even get to go into it. And before I went into it, Alyssa Bartling from Shaw Law Group, my former attorney, had told me, Jeremy, you better just drop the contempt charge because it's going to make you look childish, and more than likely, the judge ain't going to do nothing about it anyway. So I didn't want to do that, but here I am listening to somebody that I think they might know better than me. So, okay, well, it didn't feel right, but they told me to do it, and I did. and that's why they're in the lawsuit. That contempt charge was actually signed by Judge Benoni. So she knew that there was a problem and what the problem was. She knew that I didn't get served correctly. The mother withheld me from getting on my kids on my time. And by dismissing that contempt charge that I put against her and throwing it away, I just lost all my leverage. So I didn't even get to go into the custody conference that we had. My attorney went in with my ex's attorney. They were in there for about 20 minutes, came out, ended up, they gave full custody back to the mother again and told me that I have to go through ACEs, I have to go through reunification therapy with my kids, and I got to pay $1,050 for a one-time 1 hour session with me and my two sons. And if they didn't want to attend, they didn't have to. I already knew what was going on. Those kids weren't going to go there. Their mother was not going to let them come to that. And I didn't have $1,050 to spend. So I called and asked the attorney, hey, I don't have this. This is ridiculous. Do you know anywhere else that I can go that'll accept my insurance? Because I have military insurance, TRICARE, so it's pretty good. She gave me a number, called the guy, gave my information, never heard back from him. Um, and it's just been lingering on ever since. I found another hearing to a custody conference, I guess you could say, and I found out when the time came for it to happen, I found out that that same judge, Judge Benoni, was still the judge, and I was not going to go in front of her because it was not. It was just be like throwing a rock at a brick wall. Nothing's gonna happen, you know. So I just didn't go to that, and I figured, you know what, we're gonna have to file this lawsuit. We're gonna have to get this judge recused. We're gonna have to go do all these steps to hopefully try to get some justice here. And it's been almost 2 years later, and nothing's happened. But I am documenting everything that happened. So I mean, these courts, these people in this lawsuit, this court, it's a circus. And I hate to say that, and I'm not talking about regular common law. I'm sorry, court of common pleas. I'm not talking about those judges. I'm not talking about their courts. I'm talking specifically about family court. It is it. We need to get together and get with legislators, make some new legislation on these family court things that are going on, because it's not just me. It's happening here. It's happening all across the country to all kinds of people. Um, and it's sick because they don't have the kids' best interest. It's how much money can we make off of this family here? They've broken up, they got divorced. Now we can get our nose in there and see how much we can force out of the dad, how much can we get out of the mom, how much can we get out of the government for making the dad pay all this. It's sickening. Whatever happened to common decency? I don't think it exists anymore. Um, so yeah, in my federal lawsuit, I have the Civil Rico Act charge on everybody in there, because if you look at it, all these people. Imagine you have a big circle, and everybody's names that's in my lawsuit goes around that circle. They all had something to do with having my children taken from me. That is called a conspiracy. That is Civil Rico Act, and that's what I have against these people. So we'll see how it goes. The federal court has been kind of quiet lately. I put a few filings in, still waiting on some, rulings with that. Still waiting on the state lawsuit against domestic relations. We have that going. Again, this is pretty cool. I don't know if you guys can see this, but see how thick that is. That's just that's just some of the evidence I got against domestic relations, and it's pretty thick. Um, I have more than enough here that I need to have this shut down. I need to get this in front of the right judge, and if I have to, I'll take it all the way to Superior, Supreme Court. Uh, I'll take it all the way until people just finally either kill me or tell me to go pound salt. But I don't think that's going to happen because of the amount of stuff that I got here. So, anyhow, sorry about the long video, guys. I just looked here and we're almost at 40 minutes. So, um, thanks for sticking by. And standing and sticking it out with us here. So you guys stay tuned for more. We'll have more fun videos and informal videos. If you guys ever need any questions or anything broken down, feel free to comment. My email is always there. You guys can email me anytime. ArmyJair75 at gmail.com. Thank you guys for watching. Till next time.